Welcome back to Movieville. Before we get started, I would appreciate it if you would take a moment out of your day to subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget to like the video and leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. It really helps me out. I appreciate you. Here we meet author Maddie. She lives in the middle of nowhere in a gigantic forest in a cute cabin with her cat. Her cat is called Bitch. She needed an escape from the city, so she moved right next to her best friend Sarah and Sarah's husband John. Sarah is her only neighbor for what looks like miles. Maddie is deaf. She got meningitis when she was 13 and lost her hearing because of it. The movie opening scene is a treat for ASMR lovers. We hear every move she makes crisp clear. We can also hear the food sizzling and the rice boiling. Then the camera slowly circles her, and it cuts to complete silence for a moment. Now we hear the world as she hears it. It's completely silent. For a moment, we are living in a hearing-impaired person's world. There are moments in this movie where we see the audio completely cut out of a scene to show the viewer the reality the character is living in. And I have to say, it's truly terrifying to watch. It's the edge-of-your-seat type of intensity. Honestly, watching this makes me appreciate my hearing even more. Sarah comes over to tell her that she finished reading her new book. If you're a fan of the creator of this movie, Mike Flanagan, here's a little Easter egg for you. In this scene, we see that Sarah is reading Maddie's new book called Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass is an original series created by Mike Flanagan, and it also stars Katesiegel. She plays a character called Erin in that show. You can't deny that he creates some binge-worthy shows. He also created The Haunting of Hill House. I absolutely loved that show and highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Katesiegel starred in that series too. She played a character called Theodora. It was such a creepy show. The part in the car nearly stopped my heart. If you know, you know. I love that Mike Flanagan brings back a lot of familiar faces in some of his shows and movies. It makes me want to watch it even more when I see the same few people playing different characters in his different shows. American Horror Stories do the same thing with their cast, which I love. Anyway, Maddie tells Sarah that she doesn't have to speak to her in sign language because she can read her lips. Sarah insists because she's still learning, but she's happy that she's getting so much better at it. Her and her husband John have been taking sign language classes. They both laugh because Sarah tried to sign the word storytelling, but she signed the word kissing instead. Sarah is proud that her signing is much better than it used to be. Sarah can't believe how good her book was. She is so proud of her. They talk about the book for a while, and she says that although she is deaf, she can still hear the voice in her head when she thinks. It sounds just like her mother. Her extremely loud alarm goes off, but she doesn't hear it. But thankfully, Sarah notices. It's insanely loud because she needs to feel the vibrations of it if it goes off while she's sleeping. Because she can't hear her alarm, it also has bright flashing lights to help alert her if a fire starts in her home. Her dinner is burnt, but no harm is done. Sarah leaves, but before she leaves, Maddie teaches her the word bitch in sign language. She's quite pleased that she now knows that new word. They make plans to meet tomorrow because she wants to teach her more words. Her phone vibrates. It's her ex-boyfriend, Craig. He texted her saying that he thought of her today. She doesn't look too happy that he texted her. She deletes the message. She chills out for the night, eating snacks while trying to finish the ending to her newest book. We can hear her thinking out loud. She's so frustrated that she can't decide which one of her many possible endings is the right one for the final draft. She decides to take a break and FaceTime her ex Craig, but she changes her mind and hangs up. He calls her back, but she hangs up again. Craig keeps calling her, but she won't answer and goes to clean her kitchen instead. While she is cleaning, we see her best friend Sarah screaming her head off and banging on her door, begging for help. We see Sarah being unalived by a masked man. Maddie is completely unaware that her best friend is literally being unalived right behind her. The masked killer is wondering why Maddie isn't reacting. He knocks on the window. She does not react, so now he knows she is deaf. She sees her phone flashing and vibrating again. Her ex keeps trying to FaceTime her. She won't answer. Later, while she's working on her book, the masked man opens her unlocked door and walks in behind her. He is being loud on purpose to make sure she can't hear him, but again, she literally has no clue he's there. He was just about to unalive her, but she gets a FaceTime call from her sister Max. He quickly hides so they don't see him on their camera. She jokes about how the ending of the book is driving her crazy. Her sister tells her that she misses her and that she wants her to move back to New York. She says she misses living with her there. She's trying to convince Maddie to move. Then Max stares behind Maddie and asks her what was behind her. She thought she saw something moving. Maddie jokes that it's her bitch of a cat. The cat escaped earlier, but now she must be back inside. Later, she's trying to find her cat. She starts shaking the bowl to make the cat come to her. She is surprised that she isn't rushing to get her dinner. That always seems to do the trick. She walks around the house, shaking the bowl, looking for Bitch. But Bitch isn't inside the house. She is worried now because her sister said she saw something behind her earlier, so if it wasn't the cat, then who was it? She leaves the door open a little to let the cat come back inside when she's ready, and she goes back to working on her book. She gets a message from her own phone. It's photos of her taken minutes and seconds before she sat down. She is terrified because the last photo was taken right at the door she left open. She slowly walks over to the door to close it. She is shocked to see the masked man creepily standing there looking at her. She rushes to lock her door. He walks to her other door, but she rushes to all her doors to make sure they are locked. This is all a sick and twisted game for him. He knows he could pick any window and break in, and she wouldn't be able to hear, but he wants to play with her. He has a bow and arrow, and he is walking around her house, watching her. She rushes to her computer to call the police, but the masked man cuts her electricity, and her internet goes out. She sees him stabbing at the tires of her car. She is terrified. She gets lipstick and writes on her glass doors saying, "I won't tell anyone. I didn't see your face," and she says that her boyfriend is coming home soon. He then takes off his mask. He looks unhinged. He asks her if she can read his lips. He says, "Now you've seen my face." He then starts to read her ex-boyfriend's texts to let her know that no one is coming to help her. He says he can come inside her home at any moment he wants to, but he says he's going to wait until the moment she wishes she was unalive. Then he'll come in and end her. He says, "Let's have some fun." He then walks off. She grabs a knife and a hammer to defend herself and tries to find a spot to hide. It's very intense because you can hear every move she makes and every door she closes. She's trying to be as quiet as she can, but again, she literally can't hear herself. She hides in her bedroom and pushes her dresser in front of the door. But the masked man hears her and is knocking on her window. She knows he's there because she can see his shadow. She goes to look at him, but she sees that the sadistic killer is holding her unalived best friend Sarah up to the window, and using her hand to tap it, Maddie runs to the other room. She is losing it. Her heart is broken. She is crying her eyes out. She then remembers that Sarah put her phone in her back pocket when she walked away from her house. She's hoping that it's still in her pants pocket. She needs to distract the killer in order to get to Sarah, so she sets off her car alarm, knowing that he will have to go turn it off. It works. He goes to her car. She hangs out her bedroom window while searching Sarah's pockets for her phone, but she can't find it. He sees her and runs towards her, but she closes the window on time. She hurts him by slamming the window on his hand and by stabbing his arm. He then shows her that he has Sarah's phone. He places it on her body to taunt her. She looks defeated. She can't run from the house because she cannot hear him if he chases her, so she knows she won't last long outside. She knows that she has to stay inside and figure out a way to unalive him before he gets into the house. In a way, having no lights benefits her because she can see his shadow through all the windows and glass doors. Plus, it obviously makes it harder for him to see her every move from outside. She sees him at the front of the house, so she sneaks out the back door. She hides under her stairs. She closes her eyes and places her hand on the floor to feel the vibrations of his footsteps. He then sees her running. He tries to unalive her by shooting arrows at her. She knows now that trying to escape isn't an option. She will not survive in the woods if she can't hear him because her running through the loud, crisp fall leaves is too loud, making it easy for him to track her every move. Later, she climbs onto her roof. Maybe hiding outside until he goes inside will make it easier for her to run and get away. She's being so loud. It's so tense. He hears her. He almost unalives her again, but she falls back on time, but the arrow hits her leg instead of her head. He climbs the ladder, but she kicks him off on time. She grabs his bow and arrows, so now, at least, that's one less thing to worry about. She's hurt now, but she's happy she has his weapon. She hides in her bathroom and tries to clean up her leg. Her leg looks pretty bad. She's in so much pain. She starts hitting the floor because of how bad the pain is. She then lays there quietly crying. She doesn't know where to go from there. She sees marks on the weapon. It's pretty obvious that those markings were for every person he has unalived. Her neighbor John comes to her house, but she has no idea. The killer hears him. He flashes his light in his face, pretending to be a police officer. John tells him something strange is going on, and that he's looking for his wife Sarah. John starts to suspect that the creepy guy isn't a police officer, so he picks up a big rock and hides it behind him. Maddie sees John and bangs on the window, trying to warn him. As soon as John looks in her direction, the killer stabs him in the neck. The coward admits that he knew if John fought him, he'd lose right away because John is such a big man, so he played dirty by stabbing him repeatedly. But poor John still attacks him and puts up a big fight. He almost unalives him, but sadly, he bleeds out only seconds before he manages to almost strangle the psycho. We then hear her thinking out loud about all of her ways to escape, but then she explains all the ways in which he can get her during each escape plan. Then we hear her thinking out loud, saying that she's going to bleed to death. She doesn't have much time left. She needs to figure out how to get face to face with him, to unalive him. It's her only way out of this. She has no weapons to unalive him from a distance because she can't figure out how to use his bow and arrow. We hear her thinking out loud that she's cold now and that her vision is going blurry due to losing so much blood. And the killer knows this. She says that if he comes inside this house, it is over, because he is bigger than you and stronger. She tells herself that if she leaves the house, there are too many endings, and they all end the same with her being unalived. She says she is running out of time. It's now, or literally never. We see the psycho asking the unalived John for advice on if he should wait until she loses more blood to go inside. We see her cat, Bitch, coming home. The psychopath was just about to unalive the poor cat, but Maddie sees and shoots an arrow at him. Thankfully, the cat runs off. She makes it inside, but her hand gets caught in the door. He stamps on her hand over and over, breaking her hand and wrist. Now she is in excruciating pain. He says he's coming in now. She looks defeated at first, but then sticks her finger into her wound and uses her blood to write on the window, telling him to do it and to come inside, coward. Now, with her hand bleeding too, she knows it's literally now or never. As he is breaking in, she runs to her computer and leaves a note describing what the killer looks like, and she tells her mom, dad, and sister Max that she loves them and that she died fighting. She closes her computer and locks herself in her bathroom. She sits on the floor, waiting for him. She can barely move. She is about ready to pass out. She can't hear him breaking the window behind her. She thinks he's going to enter through the door in front of her. The coward is talking behind her, saying how he wants to make her scream. He laughs, but as soon as he laughs, she feels his breath on her neck. He was just about to end her, but she moves out of the way right on time. She stabs him in the leg. He drops his knife and screams in pain. She runs, but she can hardly move. Everything is blurry. She falls on her kitchen floor. He calls her an effing C-word. He walks over to unalive her, but she manages to muster up her last piece of strength to spray him with some bug spray that had fallen out of her kitchen cabinet earlier. He can't see her. She turns on her insanely loud alarm and holds it to his face. The flashing, along with the noise, makes him discombobulated. He drops the knife. He knocks her to the ground and starts kicking her over and over again. She is in agony. She manages to bite his hand while he's trying to unalive her. As he is unaliving her, she tries to reach for her corkscrew opener that fell on the ground, but he sees it and won't let her get it. Her life is literally flashing before her eyes. She is thinking about her life when she was a child. She was so happy. She's thinking about her life when she was a teenager too, when she was with her sister and parents. She relaxes her body in order to make her reach just a tiny bit longer so she can reach the bottle opener. She grabs the bottle opener and unalives the psycho. She gets his phone and calls 911. She can't talk to the emergency dispatcher, but they can hear her alarm in the background and trace her call. She goes to sit on her doorstep. Her adorable cat bitch comes to join her mom, and she sits with her waiting for the police to arrive. So that's it, our story ends there. Please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. I'm curious to hear what you thought of this movie. Anyway, till next time guys, take care.